Healing touch is so important. It's important for everyone, but for our clients who are being touched in ways that might be life-saving, but are so traumatic, are so harmful, it's important.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Qiological, the podcast that connects the voices of our acupuncture and East Asian medicine community. Recently, at dinner with a friend, we discussed some of the traits that we were grateful to have acquired from our parents. Both of us had dads that took risks, dads that worked at the edge of their experience and skill, dads that harvested some spectacular failures along the way as they grew into larger versions of themselves. As kids, we both saw that our dads had courage, that getting it wrong was part of having passion, that the ups and downs of the learning process was something to be embraced. We had dads that were comfortable with not knowing, and so we too learned to be comfortable with our not knowing as well. Probably that is one of the reasons that we both share a taste for travel and pushing ourselves beyond the borders mapped out by daily routines and conventions. Has this gotten us into hot water? Yeah, just like our dads, at times it has. And it has also opened up opportunities that would otherwise be locked behind a wall of fear, regret, and ignorance. Just as our immune systems grow stronger when they fail to recognize an invader and have to do battle and learn, so too our spirits grow more resilient when failure gives us the opportunity to hone our perceptions and our responses. Failure was never really the lesson. The lesson was in how we picked ourselves up after things went wrong and then approached our dreams with more information and renewed curiosity. Our dads demonstrated courage in their willingness to risk living a more interesting life, and we consider ourselves lucky to have had fathers that showed us how to navigate the territory just beyond the edge of the known world. What about you? Where do you draw inspiration to push the borders of what's possible in life? Speaking of opportunities and possibilities, in a few minutes, we're going to get into a conversation with Yvonne Charles. She's the director of the Charlotte Maxwell Clinic. Theirs is an amazing story of providing service for over 20 years to low-income women with a cancer diagnosis using a powerful combination of acupuncture, community, and connectivity. If you're thinking about ways to deepen your reach into underserved populations, you're going to get a lot of ideas and plenty of inspiration from this conversation. I hope you enjoyed the special podcasts from the Shenlong Society's conference last week. If you're an herbalist and you've not listened to those conversations, cue them up when you have a moment. You're in for a treat. All right, enough flapping in the lips. Let's get into today's show. These conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. All the sponsors here provide helpful products or services that you'll find beneficial in your clinical work. Want to get better at treating concussions and other neurological conditions? Clayton Shu has some innovative methods. Blue Poppy, your new one-stop shop, has speedy shipping options on everything that you need for your clinic. Later in the show, Jane offers you helpful suggestions on how to raise your rates, and Golden Flower Chinese Herbs shares a journey of healing that I think you'll recognize. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Qiological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. Picture this. Your clinic is buzzing with patients, and then you realize that you're down to your last box of needles. No need for panic, because Blue Poppy, your one-stop shop for all your acupuncture needs, they ship orders received before 3 p.m. on the same day. With a quick visit to Blue Poppy's website, you can order premium needles, herbal formulas, and that special Dr. Bob's oil that your patients love. Blue Poppy understands practitioners can't keep patients waiting. That's why they strive to get you what you need when you need it. From high-quality Chinese herbs and formulations to acupuncture supplies and clinical essentials, Blue Poppy has served practitioners for nearly 40 years with products that meet the highest of standards. Discover everything Blue Poppy has to offer by visiting www.bluepoppy.com, and don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and more. Ever found yourself listening to a Qiological conversation and thinking, wow, I needed to hear that? Yeah, me too. And I never know when I'm going to hear a guest say something that stops my world and reboots it with a larger perspective. If these conversations have ever helped you to feel more grounded, more inspired, or just less alone in this strange and wonderful work we do, consider becoming a member or supporting the podcast with a bit of tithing to the donation jar. It helps keep the lights on here at the Qiological Sound and Motion Lab so that we can bring you these conversations every Tuesday morning. You'll find all the details at qiological.com. Thanks for listening and for being a part of this.
Hey there, I'm Cameron Jafari, an acupuncturist from Los Angeles. So I started learning nanopuncture from Dr. Clayton Shu because I was facing these complex neurological conditions like stroke and MS in my clinic, and I just felt like I lacked a solid process to treat them. Brain-related issues always felt like a whole different animal, and I was looking for a clinical system that worked and could guide me through them. So after attending my first nanopuncture seminar, I was able to apply the process pretty quickly and with pretty amazing results. I remember the first stroke patient I saw afterwards was a guy who had had a stroke 2 years back, and he couldn't talk at all. And after a few treatments, he started saying a few words. And a few treatments after that, he could actually have conversations. It was pretty incredible. So this is why I feel like nanopuncture is the future of acupuncture neurology. And you can be a part of that. Their next seminar is on treating concussions and is being co-taught by both Dr. Shu and Dr. Ayla Wolf in New York City on April 26th and 27th. To learn more, visit nanopunctureseminars.com.
Hello, friends. Today is one of these rare and roving Qiological episodes. I'm on the road right now. I am in Oakland, California, to be specific. And I'm here today at the Charlotte Maxwell Clinic, and we're going to find out what this place is about. It's really special. I'm sitting down with Yvonne Charles. She is the
Executive Director.
Executive Director. And we're going to find out what's cooking here in Oakland. Yvonne, welcome to Qiological.
Thank you, Michael.
So happy to be here with you. I've heard about your clinic from a number of different people. That's the reason that I first reached out. Different folks were saying there's some amazing stuff going on with what you guys are doing. So give us a little background. What are y'all up to here?
So we've been around for, a little over 27 years. And so we are named after Charlotte Maxwell. And Charlotte was an amazing woman from everything that I've heard about her. And I am in touch still with her best friend. I'm in touch a little bit with her brother. And basically what happened was back in the 80s, Charlotte was involved in the public health movement in San Francisco. And so she was, we remember back in the 80s, she was helping a lot of men with AIDS.
Yeah, that was a big thing happening back then.
That was the big thing happening then. And then she got diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And who stepped up for her were her women friends. And they started providing the things that we used to call then complementary or alternative medicine, and now is integrative medicine. But they offered her things like acupuncture, all kinds of body work, herbal medicines. And she credited those medicines with her quality of life being dramatically improved at the end of her life. And her dream, her legacy is that women who can't otherwise afford these services have access to these services. And so after she passed, her friends came together, started out really small in the house of one of her friends, just one room. And for free, they volunteered their services to low-income women with cancer. And over the years, this is what we've grown into, is this clinic of 7 treatment rooms with hundreds of volunteers serving hundreds of low-income women with cancer here in the Bay Area.
It's an incredible story. I am often so struck. There are people that do amazing things in this world. And sometimes they probably don't even know how amazing the work is that they're doing until something like this happens. And then people come out of the woodwork and support them. And it sounds like not only was she supported, but this work is carried on 27 years now.
It is. It is. One of the wonderful things about this place is that some of our volunteers have been with us from the beginning, from the very beginning. Others of our volunteers, and we only ask for a 1-year commitment. Others of our volunteers have been with us 10 years, 14 years. One volunteer recently celebrated her 17th year with us, one of our acupuncturists, and one of our Western herbalists. She recently celebrated 16 years coming here. Some of them we ask for once a month. Most come monthly, and some of them come every single week. They have their regular shift every single week that they have been coming in for years and years and years. It's an amazing experience. It's an amazing place.
It sounds like it. I want to find out more about how do you manage to run a place like this. But before I jump into that, tell us a little bit about the services that you provide here.
So our clientele, when I say low-income women with cancer, everyone has to have a cancer diagnosis. And it doesn't matter what type of cancer diagnosis. And I mention that because often people only serve women with breast cancer. And what we've noticed is while the majority of our clients at any one time, it'll be between, call it 65 and 80% of our clients have breast cancer. The women with breast cancer, they need more services, certainly. But the women with cancers other than breast, they barely have anything. And so we provide a really important resource for women with diagnoses of cancer that are not breast cancer. And so what do? We offer acupuncture. We offer all kinds of body work. So, of course, people know Swedish massage. People might know shiatsu, but we have biodynamic massage, cranial, sacral, you name it. We have so many types of body work, Western and Chinese herbs for sure. We have different types of energy work, including guided imagery, which is so important. We have homeopathy. People often think of homeopathy when it comes to earaches if you have children, colds and flus, but I have to say the majority of our clients use it to help them manage their anxiety, their depression, their stress. And they might
really
not...
for the psychomotive aspects.
Yes. So our clients, and I'll talk a little bit more about what we do, but our clients come to us not knowing what integrative medicine is usually. And if they know anything, they know acupuncture and Swedish massage. And so we immediately jump into a lot of education around what is this thing called integrative medicine. So besides, which I'll get into, besides those modalities that I mentioned, of course, we offer nutritional counseling, critical when you have cancer. We offer cooking classes because counseling is not helpful unless you know how to cook the food that's being recommended to you. We also offer exercise counseling. And then the one thing I also have to say, since our clients are low income, is we also offer social services. And so we don't do patient navigation per se, and we definitely refer out as we need to. So we have very close partnerships in the community.
So you connect people up with what they need.
We connect people up with what they need. But besides housing and security, this is the Bay Area, the number one thing that our clients face being poor is hunger and security. And so when you walk in the door here, the first thing that you will see are beautiful baskets of locally grown organic produce. And those come to us, community supporters, buy us CSA boxes from Full Belly Farms. Want to give them a little shout out because it's critical. We don't want anyone to leave here hungry. So we'll certainly support in other ways. We'll connect you with, food stamps called CalFresh here in California, or a local agency that helps people with cancer with food. But we don't want anyone leaving here hungry. And so we don't offer any herbal medicines or supplements that we don't personally carry, because nothing is more painful than being told this could help you and you can't afford it. So we usually purchase, though we do have some wonderful donors that support us. So LASA OMS, I also want to mention, because they give us our acupuncture needles for free, and that's a new partnership. And these are the best acupuncture needles that you can get. And so that saves us so much money that we can put into other parts of our programming. And I'm not trying to be a corporate shill or anything here. It's more that we are just so very grateful. We run on a very lean budget. And so these folks jumping in and helping us out in these ways, it makes a really, really big difference to us, to our clients.
Yep. No, you're not being a corporate shill. It was through LASA. They were one of the several people that told me about the work that you're doing
lovely,
here.
Lovely. Yeah.
They were very impressed and
Yeah.
delighted to help support this effort here.
Yes. Well, we are grateful. Like I said, we were buying acupuncture needles before, albeit at a discount. And so this allows us to put money into other areas. Yeah. No, it's truly wonderful.
Great. So primarily Chinese medicine, and it sounds like you've got herbs, you've got the body work, and then, you know, that essential thing of security and food. You know, I mean, in some ways we're talking about. Now, do you have a background in acupuncture yourself?
I went to acupuncture school, but I did not become an acupuncturist. My background is that of a chaplain, actually. So even though I'm the executive director, which makes me chief fundraiser, no, I still do some of the social services here. And so, yeah, I get my hand in. I get to chat with our clients. And we do say clients, not patients. I should let you know that. And that was a deliberate choice the founders made a long time ago so people could feel separated from their diagnosis.
Oh, you know, that is so important. I find people, whether they want to or not, I mean, sometimes people get some distance from it, but sometimes people will take a diagnosis and they completely identify their entire life and who they are, even at their core, with a diagnosis as opposed to being a human being. And it does help to get the distance from the diagnosis, but more importantly, get that connection to the rest of what makes us tick. Yeah, and I was just thinking, the reason I asked if you had a background in Chinese medicine, I hear you talk about security, I hear you talk about food, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, you're really taking care of the spleen and the kidney here, right? These really essential fundamentals.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, it is the number one request that we get here is acupuncture, right? And we know that. We know that acupuncture helps with all the side effects of treatment, which is usually what our ladies are dealing with. So it helps with nausea, it helps with pain, it helps with stress, it helps with so many things. And so more than any other modality, acupuncture is our most requested and is our most prescribed.
Yeah, well, you know, it's great stuff. I mean, listeners to the program know this. You can so quickly, in such a short amount of time, shift so much in a person, not just physically, but psychoemotively as well.
Yeah,
powerful
absolutely.
stuff. Yeah. Any particular acupuncture modalities that you tend to use here, or is it up to the individual practitioner?
I'm going to say it's up to the individual practitioner because so the term personalized medicine is thrown out about a lot lately, and it's something we've been practicing here for a very long time. And so for our clients who come in and they may have a following practitioner, let's say the following practitioner is an acupuncturist, and not everyone has a following practitioner because it depends what's going on.
So a following practitioner
practitioners, you come in and you see that person pretty regularly. And so depending on where you are in your cancer journey, you will come in here once a week, maybe a couple times a month, or monthly, or even quarterly if you're, much farther out from your diagnosis. And so if you're much farther out from your diagnosis, then you don't necessarily need a following practitioner. If you're new to us, then we'll see what we can do to have someone who has regular contact with you, even though you're doing multiple modalities.
All right. So you get someone to sort of coordinate the care and kind of have a go-to.
Right. Yeah. And we also have a clinic manager. We have a medical director, and then we have a team of volunteers who are not necessarily practitioners, and we call them the priority team. And so they monthly get together and run through the medical records and see, what are the referrals that have come in that month that we have not taken care of immediately. So do we recommend lab tests? Do we recommend going back to your doctor? Are these symptoms something to be more concerned about or not. So we definitely try and make sure through all these different avenues that no one falls through the cracks.
Yeah.
And so because recurrence, if nothing else, recurrence is a big concern. And so we want to make sure that everyone is looked at. So in terms of the following practitioners, so some of our acupuncturists, not just acupuncturists, but some of our acupuncturists are following practitioners. And so they've been seeing these individual clients regularly. So to answer your original question, then they might have a acupuncture regime that they might want to do. But for the most part, I'm going to say no, it's up to the individual acupuncturist as they see that particular client.
This episode is brought to you by Jane, the clinic management software that I use to keep my practice running smoothly. So, let's talk about something that can be a little bit uncomfortable, raising your fees. I know, this is something that might feel awkward, but it doesn't have to. With a bit of planning and care, you can handle it in a way that feels right for you and your patients. One tip, give yourself at least 2 months to prepare. This gives you time to get comfortable with the change and let your patients know what's happening. You can share the news through emails, booking reminders, or even just a friendly little sign in your clinic, and avoid over-apologizing. Instead, keep it straightforward and matter of fact. Keeping things consistent across the ways that you communicate can really help avoid confusion. Fee increases aren't always easy, but you're not on your own here. For more tips and ideas on how to communicate these changes with confidence, check out frontdesk.chain.app and look for the article, How to Tell Your Clients You're Raising Your Fees. Oh, and one last thing, if you're ready to give Jane a try, use the code CHIALOGICAL for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Yeah, Chinese medicine seems to work best that way when the person doing it gets to work out of the particular framework that makes sense to them.
Yes.
Yeah. So, so you're not doing any kind of protocolized or no. You're doing real real East Asian medicine.
Yes.
Here.
Yes, that we are. We are very, very individual. And I also have to say, we pride ourselves. One of the things that I do say as the executive director is I feel half the healing happens before people even go into the treatment rooms, right? And so you walk in and as quickly as we can, we learn your name. So you're greeted by name. You're welcomed into the clinic, and family and friends are welcomed into the clinic. And so we have several spouses who come here and nap while their loved one is getting treatment. We have several spouses who nap while their loved one is in treatment in the treatment room. And that's important to us because they report back that when their loved one is in chemo, for instance, in the infusion center, they're worried. They're sitting there worried. But here, they know they're being taken care of. And over, we are told, okay, whatever the hospital is, I'm not going to name any hospitals, but, that's where I might be cured of the cancer, but Charlotte Maxwell Clinic is where I'm healed. And it's important, folks come in and they hear their language being spoken. As much as we can, we get practitioners who speak different languages so that we don't have to rely on interpreters. And we certainly do. We have interpreters and we're very grateful for them. But we just try and remove as many barriers as possible. So you can bring your child, you can bring your grandchild. They're welcomed here as well. You don't have to pay for childcare. We always need more drivers. And so as much as possible, we ask people in the community if you can drive them to and from the appointment here. Not everyone has gas money if they have a car. Not everyone has access to public transportation. And even if you do qualify for paratransit, you can be sitting for hours. And so we just try and minimize as many barriers as possible.
So you're not just a clinic.
No.
I mean, I see we're sitting here face to face.
Right.
Usually it's over the internet. I see your eyes light up when I say, this is not just a clinic. You got drivers. You're helping people with food. You're teaching life skills. You're helping with exercise.
Yeah, as much as we can. And so we're very specific in our mission, I have to say. Our mission is integrative medicine. But if you're told, eat better, and which our clients are told. So doctors will say eat better, but they don't know what that means.
Right. What does that mean?
Right.
And how do you do it?
Right.
And different people have different ideas of eat better. I see patients in my clinic all the time. I ask them, how's your diet? They go, I eat pretty well. I go, great. What's a pretty well diet look like? Oh, man, there's all kinds of different answers.
Right. There's all kinds of different answers. And I have to say, we were a little bit sad last summer. We lost one of our farms that we used to partner with, and we had just worked out a deal with them to plant specific vegetables for us because especially our clients who are new here from China, and some of the vegetables are just not familiar. And so we're very close to Oakland, Chinatown. But if you're sick, you don't necessarily want to be at the farmer's market. And we had just worked out a deal with them to plant particular vegetables that we knew our clients were missing that are so healthy because it's vegetables. And and they had to close down. They lost their space. And so that is something that we are looking for, is another possible farm partnership.
I'm really struck with the attentiveness and the breadth of what you're looking to do here. Where does that come from?
I have to say it comes from our founders. So I'm still in touch with several of the founders, one of whom is our current volunteer medical director. And the care that they showed from the very beginning that is still shown now. There is still that concern around more than ever we are needed. And the expense, how expensive the Bay Area is, I'll rephrase what I was going to say, how expensive the Bay Area is and continues to be, especially over the last couple of years, is of such concern to us. And so trying to figure out what we can do, what little part we can play to make the lives of the ladies who walk in these doors, to make their lives better, that fits within our mission, it's just important. It's really, really important. It's good work. I also have to say for our volunteers that several volunteers have said to me that with everything happening in the world, especially when natural or other disasters occur, that knowing they can come in here and in the space of a few hours relieve the suffering of the clients that they see means so much to them. So as staff, I know we feel very lucky to work here. As volunteers, I know they feel very lucky to be able to come in here. And I think all of that translates into the care that I'm talking about for our clients. And so we're grateful to be able to offer the respite that we do to our clients in big and small ways.
Again, I'm struck by how multifaceted your vision is with this. It's not just acupuncture. It's not just herbs. It's all of it. How do you make a place like this run?
It's hard. It is very hard. We get no government funding. And I'm constantly told, why doesn't the state just support you? And so the state does not. And there are good and bad points to that. I'm not going to say that, the state should support us. And so we have a number of long-term supporters, both individuals and family foundations, and other foundations. And then we have very few corporate sponsors. And so, it's all donation. We run on a very, very lean budget, and we make do with what we have.
Tell me a little bit about what your outreach looks like. How do you let people know, or organizations know about what you're doing? And the flip side of that is, what is it that they see you doing here that they go, oh, wow, we really want to support this. This is different, and we want to be a part of it.
So outreach depends on who we're reaching out to. So I'll start with clients. The majority of our referrals come to us through the hospitals. And so I'm going to say probably 95% of our referrals come from hospital navigators, patient navigators, social workers, nurses, doctors, in that order. And then the rest of the referrals are family members, loved ones. People have said, oh, I found out I had cancer, and someone in my building said, hey, have you heard of Charlotte Maxwell Clinic? And so it's word of mouth. People have heard of us, might not know quite what we do, but say, check them out. And so that's for clients. And certainly, we go around and we put up flyers and things like that, but that's the majority of the referrals. And it doesn't have to be through the hospital. People can self-refer. That is absolutely fine. And so for volunteers, that's word of mouth. Volunteers who know about us. Again, we put volunteer postcards and flyers around in the community, and we certainly outreach to particular places if we're looking for particular volunteers at particular times. But it is still word of mouth that volunteers love being here, and so they tell other people about us.
So you sort of got your own built-in network that sustains itself that way.
We do. And it's wonderful because it means that being in the Bay Area, our clientele is very diverse in almost every way, right? They have to be low income, they have to have a cancer diagnosis, and they have to be a self-identified woman. So those are three very specific parameters, but otherwise, racially, other backgrounds, we are very diverse. And so it means that our volunteer pool is very diverse, and that's quite wonderful. And something I have to say, we do pride ourselves on that our volunteer board, staff, and client pool are all very diverse in many, many ways, very representative of the Bay Area.
Well, the Bay Area is such a tapestry compared to so much of the rest of the country.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And then in terms of organizations and outreach, so we have to do quite a bit of education there. And so we certainly get invited to brown bag lunches. And can you talk about, what does Charlotte Maxwell Clinic do? When we hear of turnover at some of the hospitals, then we reach out again and say, can we come in and explain to this new group of social workers who we are and what we do, so that they can let their, it's a hospital, so they do say patients there, so they can let the patients know, because ideally we will get the person newly diagnosed before they've even begun conventional treatment, because we want to prevent as many side effects as we possibly can. And so, as we all know, prevention is much better than treatment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the hospitals. Again, I live in the Midwest.
Right.
It's a whole different mindset.
Yes.
How does the Western medicine community, hospitals in particular, view what you do? And how interested are they in working with you?
So I have to say, it depends on, when it comes to the navigators, they're very open to it, probably because they hear from the clients. They might not know what we do, but they hear from people that what we do is so helpful to them. Similarly with the social workers. And so there it's a matter of education around what is integrative medicine and what are these things you call modalities. Right? And what do they do? When it comes to the doctors in particular, we have some really big fans out in the community. Some of the breast surgeons, some of the oncologists, they absolutely believe in what we do. One of the lesser known aspects of our clinic is that doctors will reach out to us and say, I have tried everything for their nausea. Can I refer clients to you because nothing is working?
Yeah.
And that happens more than people are aware of, because it happens in the privacy of the doctor's office when the client is not around, right? And so, so that is something that we offer, that folks don't know that we offer, because our answer is yes, we can help. And so we have some big fans in the medical community, and then we have some folks who like some of what we do. And their biggest concern is probably around herbs and not understanding that you can use herbs if you use them properly with education during treatment. And so some of what I do specifically is I get invited to the hospitals to different forums, and I will talk to the oncologists and the surgeons, mainly oncologists, around, we look at the herbal database with Memorial Sloan Kettering very closely. We have a real breadth of knowledge with our volunteers and with our medical director around what is helpful, what is contraindicated, when people should or should not do herbs, which supplements are particularly helpful, and when should people be taking them. And so when it comes to acupuncture, I think, and I'm guessing your audience has a deeper sense than the medical community around how helpful it is and what it does.
Yeah, I mean, the conventional medical community is busy doing their conventional medicine.
Right.
In the same way that we don't necessarily know a whole lot about what they do. I mean, we know a little.
Right.
Just because we interface with those systems so much, right? Everyone's busy and they've got their own specialties, and it's hard to know about everything.
Right, absolutely. And so that's why we work very closely with the hospitals. That's why we get medical records. That's why we refer back to the doctor. And I think that's why they refer to us, is that we do have those open lines of communication as much as we can.
So you really keep the medical centers updated with what's going on with the patients.
We try our best to, and of course it depends on the practitioner, right? And so we try very hard to. And so if not with a particular oncologist, at least with their office, so that we can say, here's what we're doing, here's what we're seeing, what are you doing, what are you seeing? And so, we mean whole person care. We mean personalized medicine. We try very, very hard. I know those are terms that are being, co-opted.
They're all around the place these days.
But what the more literal meaning of that is what we try and do.
Imagine this. A patient walks into your clinic. They're carrying more than the pain in their body. There's a story there. A history woven with the stress of long days, the ache of things unsaid, and the quiet longing for something to shift. You listen, not just with your ears, but with your hands, your intuition, your heart. It's not just about needles or a formula. It's about connection. Understanding the threads that tie us together, mind, body, and spirit. That is where Golden Flower Chinese Herbs comes in. Rooted in tradition and crafted with care, their formulas are more than herbs. They're a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern practice. Every bottle, a quiet partner in your work, helping you to meet your patients where they are. Because healing isn't just about treating symptoms. It's about creating trust, cultivating belonging, and helping someone feel truly seen. Golden Flower Chinese Herbs, your partner in practice and connection, where tradition meets care. Do you have any kind of research things going on here? This seems like it could be a really creative and helpful environment to do some sort of integrative medicine research.
So we don't have any at present. We have in the past. And so I will say that because we're such a small staff, we're only 5 people, that
You're only 5 people on staff?
We're only 5 people on staff.
Okay, so those of you that are listening to the podcast and you can't see what I had a tour of here, I can't believe that. I understand your staff is bigger because you've got a big volunteer staff,
right.
But a paid staff of 5, holy smokes.
Yep. Exactly. I told you we run lean. Lean and efficient. And efficient, yes, because the majority of our money goes towards the programming, goes towards our clients. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm curious if, it's taken you guys 27 years to grow to what you've grown into here. But if there was a group of people, or maybe even just one person in a clinic that wanted to, spend some time helping cancer patients or serve other populations or people with some kind of serious illnesses, any thoughts about how to take some of the wisdom of what you've gleaned here, not just gleaned, but I mean, you live it here, staff of 5, holy smokes. What are some thoughts about setting up something like what you do in other places? Do you have people contacting you?
Yes.
You do?
Yes. We have people contacting us all the time, and we would love to see that. We really would. I know that once this got off the ground, probably 5-6 years in, that one of the hopes had been that this would be a model that would be expanded across the country. And so we definitely have requests several times a year. I have to say, people contacting me wanting to know more. And I'm always happy to talk with people, because the more people who get helped in this manner, I think the better. And so there are a few things that I say. One point that I have not touched on is that our clinic is open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's for specific reasons. The majority of our clients are in conventional treatment during the week. The majority of our clients are have loved ones, not always children, have loved ones to take care of. And since we have volunteer practitioners, they work during the week.
Right. They're busy.
They're busy during the week. And one of the things that's come up is people have said, why don't you do it Monday through Friday? And what I've noticed is those clinics that have tried to do it Monday through Friday have a hard time. So they don't really have volunteer practitioners, right? They have to pay staff. And that's fine, but it means that you have a much smaller pool of people. And then for the clients, we're not competing with treatment. We're not competing with, children, grandchildren's school schedule. The weekends, they are much more flexible. They have people to drive them to and from the appointments. And that means that we can have a much bigger volunteer pool. And the thing that makes Charlotte Maxwell Clinic unique, because there are many places that offer, free or usually sliding scale acupuncture for low-income people with cancer. But the reason we're able to do what we do is under one roof, you have this breadth of modalities. And so if your acupuncturist notices that you're confused around food, she can refer to the nutritionist. If the nutritionist notices, some emotional things are coming up, she can refer to the homeopath, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's nowhere else to go. You can just make the appointment here. So you don't have to figure out, where do I find a homeopath? Where do I find the exercise therapist? Where do I find this? Where do I find that? We can just take care of it here.
You've got it here. You got it covered.
We've got it here. And that directly relates to the fact that we are open on the weekends. And so we have this really big volunteer pool to choose from, as opposed to those hospitals and clinics or individuals. A woman in New York contacted me last year wanting to do something similar, and she'd been working on it, I think she said, for about 18 months and just wasn't able to make it happen. And so I start there. I start with weekends and see what difference that makes for all the reasons that I explained. And then it takes a lot. It really does take an awful lot to make it happen. There is not much money out there for this type of medicine. And so there are a couple big places that do it, OSHA Center, not to the scale that we do, different way of going about it. There are also some other places, even locally, that offer it in a different way than what we do, offer integrative medicine in a different way than what we do.
So they're actually offering integrative medicine in the way that you're doing it, or are they just offering a modality or two?
They offer a modality or two. They don't offer it in the same way that we do, or people might give I know there's several voucher programs that people will try and do what we do, and then eventually they switch over to, I worked out a deal with, 2 acupuncturists and 3 massage therapists and maybe one other modality. And then they'll hand the client a voucher to go and see those people, as opposed to what we do. So I'm always happy to talk with anyone and explain in more detail how we go about making this happen, because it actually does require a lot, and it requires a level of focus, I'll say. So we don't do support groups. And people will ask that, do you do support groups? And that's where we partner closely with other organizations. And
so you focus on what you focus on what you really do well.
Yes.
And where they can't find it somewhere else.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And because of that, I think that's why we've grown. And that is why we do what we do very, very well. Very well. And so we are partnering, actually, a deep collaboration with cancer support communities in Northern California. We are partnering to open a satellite location in Antioch because many of our clients in Oakland are being pushed farther out into the outskirts of the Bay Area, and looking at where made sense. We realized that Antioch is where, and those areas are where a lot of the people are being forced to move, because Oakland in particular is, San Francisco's expensive, more expensive. So people are moving to Oakland, which makes it more expensive, et cetera.
On and on it goes.
On and on it goes. And so we'll be experimenting with a satellite location out there and see, what can we do to serve those folks?
And you'll be using the same sort of model that you use
We do
here.
the exact same thing.
Yeah, because it really works.
Cancer support communities does what they do very well. So they do the support groups, they do the classes, they do the workshops, but they don't do what we do. And we're not trying to replicate them. They're not trying to replicate us. But we do think that under one roof, again, having these different services will better serve the clientele.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, when I hear you talk about it that way, well, I think for myself, I just run a small little clinic, but I'm really glad to have a bookkeeper who knows bookkeeping. So I don't have to think about it. I can just go, this, you take care of it. I'm going to go do some acupuncture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. We don't try and do what anybody else does. If someone else does something very, very well, then we'd rather partner with them. We'd rather figure out a way to do, again, to minimize barriers, a way to do a much quicker referral for our clientele than otherwise. And so to that end, we actually meet with different parts of our community support in quarterly meetings. And so we have a cancer collaborative that we meet quarterly, Bay Area Cancer Collaborative, and that's us, Charlotte Maxwell Clinic, Women's Cancer Resource Center, Cancer Support Communities, who I mentioned, and then Commonweal. And so figuring out, what can we do? And then we have another collaborative, which includes all those people with the exception of Commonweal. They're not part of that group, but there we also include, for instance, American Cancer Society, Shanti, that's local out of San Francisco, and a couple other people.
So you're not just this clinic that's doing this integrative medicine. You are really like wheels within wheels, connected to a larger community and larger systems that are all, I don't know if complementary is the right word, but you're doing something similar and similar visions.
Similar visions for sure, but different missions. And so therefore we want to serve our clients better. And the easiest way to serve our client, when you're given a referral someplace, being told go to, for instance, Women's Cancer Resource Center for a support group, it's much easier if I can say to you, go and see so-and-so over there. I'll tell them you're coming.
Yeah.
And it's part of what I said earlier about being welcoming and removing barriers. And so if someone knows that someone is expecting them and they are greeted by name, it makes a really big difference to something.
Oh, it really does, doesn't it?
That is otherwise nerve-wracking.
Yeah. So instead of being told, go here, go see this person, I'm going to deliver you hand to hand, so to speak. Yeah,
exactly.
That's great. That's great. So if there are people listening to this and they'd like to do some work in their community and they're not sure where to begin, or maybe they've begun, but they like to think about what the next steps are, they could reach out to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so go to our website and they're more than welcome to reach out to me.
I will make sure all of that stuff is on the show notes page.
Great, thank you.
So that people can reach out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else that I haven't asked you about this phenomenal place you have that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I'm often asked if this is a depressing place to work. And I always say no. And I want to explain why. It's probably come across in my enthusiasm as I talk about this place. Healing touch is so important. It's important for everyone, but for our clients who are being touched in ways that might be life-saving, but are so traumatic, are so harmful, it's important. And so we hug a lot here. Of course, we always ask permission, and we're almost always told yes. And even those who tell us no in the beginning will usually switch to yes. And it's important to have a healing community where people understand that these tiny things are important. So to put out the bowl of apples for a snack when you come in, to have the tea waiting, to put out the produce in a way that shows that we care for our clients is critical to me and to the rest of the staff. I used to work in homeless shelters years ago, and that was one of the things that made me really sad, was to see shelters are a Band-Aid, but people need them right now. And to see people, the staff, being so harried and not taking the care that means so much to people. And they might not even recognize it in the moment, but being able to work in a place where those details are honored makes it a very special place to work, where we put the hug of a client before putting away a chart. I think those things make all the difference. And in return, we are called angels. We are called family. We work with people with cancer, so people do pass away. And we have loved ones contact us after they pass away and say how much we meant to them and how we made a big difference. Often we're told in quantity of life. We have no way of knowing that, but we definitely know in quality of life that it makes such a big difference to them and to us to make that connection with another human being. And that's probably, for me, the biggest difference in Charlotte Maxwell Clinic. So for folks trying to figure out what to do in the community, it sounds a little trite, but I'm going to say start there. Someone presents in front of you, and as acupuncturists, hopefully folks do this anyway, but to see that person as a human being before you get into the details of the intake. It makes a really big difference. It makes a really, really big difference. And people send us cards and give us flowers, and that's all very sweet, and we appreciate it. But more, it's hearing back from them that this is what they got out of the experience, was feeling touched and healed in that way. And that's why it's not a depressing place to work. Whatever might be happening that's hard, it's a very special and beautiful place.
You know, it seems like when we have these opportunities to bring our heart into our work, regardless of where it is, it makes for a completely different experience.
Yes. Yes. Beautifully said.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Thank you, Michael. It was my pleasure.
Well, here we are at the end of this episode. If you've listened up to this point, you're either a rabid fan of Qiological or the forward button on your podcast player stopped working. If you are indeed a fan of the podcast, you can help us to bring new episodes to our community of practitioners by supporting us with a membership or a one-time contribution. Details, of course, are on the website. That's it for today, friends. Join us again next Tuesday for another thoughtful episode of Qiological.